and welcome to Nana's Crafty Home. My name is Tanya. Today's tutorial is going to show you how to crochet the nesting V-stitch. This is a variation of the simple V-stitch, which is a double crochet, chain one, double crochet, all worked in the same stitch or the same space. And you can see it looks vastly different than what your typical V-stitch would look like because we're dropping that V-stitch into a previous row. Let's go ahead and get started. So this stitch is worked in multiples of 3 plus 1 for your foundation chain. I'm going to start with my first color here, get that on my hook, and my sample is going to be worked with a beginning chain of 31. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 28, 29, 30, and 31. So for row 1, I'm going to work a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the 5th chain from the hook. And those skip chains are going to count as my first stitch. So counting over to the 5th chain, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I'm going to be working my first V-stitch, which is a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet, all worked in the same chain. And I've crocheted my first V-stitch. Now I'm going to skip 2 chains, so skip the next 2, 1 and 2, and in the next chain work another V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Skip 2 chains, V-stitch in the next, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. And I'm just going to be repeating those same steps. Skip 2 chains, V-stitch in the next, and a V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And continue repeating that same sequence down your row to your last 2 chains. So I have 2 chains remaining after I've worked that last V-stitch. I'm going to skip the next chain and work a double crochet in the last chain. Now I want to change colors for row 2, so I'm not going to complete that last double crochet, and I'm going to bring in my next color. And then turn for row 2. Chain 1, work a half double crochet in the same stitch. So in the top of that last double crochet, work a half double crochet. Now, I'm going to be working V-stitches again for this row. For row 2, I'm going to be working over that chain 1 space, so this is that next V-stitch here. I'm going to work over the chain 1. I'm going to be working over that whole V-stitch, and I'm going to work a V-stitch in the same chain as my previous row's V-stitch. So, insert your hook into that same chain that you had your previous V-stitch in and work a double crochet. And you're going to want that double crochet to be the height of your half double crochet there. So chain 1 and work another double crochet in that same chain to complete your V-stitch. So I have my first V-stitch of this row completed. I'm going to work a V-stitch over that next V-stitch, placing it in the same chain. So inserting my hook into that same chain and completing a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet, all worked in that same stitch. V-stitch over the next V-stitch. It's going to squish your row 1, so it's going to look a little strange, but we're going to get that adjusted in our next row. So just continue working V-stitches over each V-stitch from the previous row, working in the same chain. Now I've worked a V-stitch over every V-stitch from that previous row. When I get to the end, I'm going to half double crochet in the last stitch. And so the top of that, those skipped chains, I'm going to work a half double crochet. And I don't want to complete that half double crochet because I'm going to be bringing in my third color. Okay, so to complete that half double crochet, I'm going to be bringing in my third color, and you'll notice that I'm not fastening off the colors that I'm dropping. I'm leaving them to pick them back up later in my pattern. So I've brought in my third color. I'm going to turn for row 3 and chain 1, half double crochet in that same stitch. So at the base of that, chain 1, work a half double crochet. Now we're going to be working in the chain 1 space of the V-stitch from 2 rows below. So 2 rows below would be row 1. 1 row below, 2 rows below is row 1. It's easy to tell because we're changing colors every row, so we know row 1 is our gray. So I want to find the chain 1 space from that V-stitch, and it kind of got squished down from working that V-stitch over it, but just kind of wiggle your fingers around until you can locate that chain 1 space, and you're going to be working a V-stitch into that space. So work a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. So then we're just going to be repeating that all the way down our row, working a V-stitch in the chain 1 space from 2 rows below. So you can take your thumb and your middle finger and just kind of wiggle it around until you can find that chain 1 space between that V-stitch. Work a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet, all worked in that same chain 1 space, and continue repeating that. So I'm gonna pull those double crochets apart, take my fingers, wiggle them around, and I'm gonna find that chain space. And then double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all in that same space. Repeat it. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So I'm now at the end of my row, and I'm going to half double crochet in the last stitch. And again, I'm not going to be completing that half double crochet. I'm going to leave it unworked, and I'm going to drop my third color, and I'm going to bring in my first color. Drop my white, pull in my gray. So I'm going to grab my gray, yarn over to pull it through my stitch to complete my half double crochet. You don't want to pull that too tightly. You also don't want it to be too loose. You want it to be following the edge of your project closely without bunching your work. So once you have pulled that back in, you can now turn for row 4 and chain 1, half double crochet in that same stitch. So after you've worked that half double crochet, we're going to be working a double crochet stitch, and we're going to be working that in between the first half double crochet and the next double crochet stitch from 2 rows below. And remember, 1 row below would be the white, 2 rows below would be the pink, which was row 2. So we want to come down and look at that pink row. This was that half double crochet stitch, and this is that double crochet stitch from that V-stitch. So we're going to work a double crochet between those two stitches. So come down and insert your hook between that half double crochet and that double crochet, and then complete your double crochet, making it the same height as your half double crochet. Now I'm going to be working V-stitches in between the next two V-stitches from 2 rows below. So again, 2 rows below would be row 2. It's my pink row. And I'm going to be working a V-stitch between V-stitches. So you can see this was the V-stitch from that row. This is a V-stitch from that row. So I'm going to be working a V-stitch between those V-stitches. So coming down, inserting your hook into that space and working a V-stitch. Double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. And I'm going to be repeating that all the way down this row. There's a V-stitch, there's a V-stitch. This is the space between the V-stitches. And I'm going to work a V-stitch. V-stitch between the next. That's going to be here. And just continue repeating that on down your row, working a V-stitch between the V-stitches from 2 rows below. So I've worked a V-stitch between these V-stitches. These are the last 2 V-stitches from 2 rows below, and I worked that V-stitch between them. So then I'm going to skip over that V-stitch from below, and I'm going to go ahead and work a double crochet 2 rows below between that last half double crochet stitch and the double crochet stitch of that last V-stitch there. So I'm going to work a double crochet between those 2 stitches, and then I'm going to work a half double crochet in the last stitch, and I'm not going to be completing that last stitch. I'm going to be dropping the gray and pulling in the pink and complete my half double crochet. Turn for row 5, chain 1, half double crochet in that same stitch. I'm going to go 2 rows below, so 1 row below would be the gray, 2 rows below would be the white, and that's going to be row 3. I'm going to come down into the white, and I'm going to work a double crochet between the first half double crochet stitch and the next double crochet from 2 rows below. So from that row from 2 rows below, I'm going to find my half double crochet stitch, and my half double crochet stitch is this one, and the next double crochet stitch, which is from that next V-stitch there, and I'm going to work a double crochet between those 2 stitches. Now I'm going to be working my V-stitches in between the next 2 V-stitches from 2 rows below, and again 2 rows below would be the white. So the space in between the 2 V-stitches, here's a V-stitch, there's a V-stitch. Where is the space between them? It's here. But I want to work it under the white. So you're going to have to pull this V-stitch from 1 row below apart a little bit to find that space between the 2 V-stitches. So insert your hook into that space and work a V-stitch. And I'm going to be repeating that all the way down this row. So the next V-stitch from 2 rows below is here. The next one is here. This is the space between them. I'm working over that chain 1, over the V-stitch from that 1 row below, So I'm going to pull that apart and I'm going to find that space, and you're probably going to have to kind of wiggle your fingers around to find it and open it up, but you can see there is a space, and you can go ahead and insert your hook there. So as you get more experienced and practiced with this stitch, it's going to be a lot easier to find those stitches. So again, between these next two V-stitches, pull open this one, find that chain. Well, it's really not a chain, it's a space, but it's underneath the white. And work a V-stitch. So then when you get to the end of your row, you're going to find the space in between the last double crochet and the last half double crochet stitch of that row, and work a double crochet, and then work a half double crochet in the last stitch. You're not going to complete that half double crochet. We're going to pull in that dropped color to complete the stitch. Turn, and we're ready for row 6. So after turning for row 6, we're going to chain 1. We're going to half double crochet in that same stitch. And now I'm going to work a double crochet between the half double crochet and the next double crochet 2 rows below. So 2 rows below would be 1, 2, this would be the gray. So you can see here's the half double crochet, here's the double crochet, and I'm going to work between those 2 stitches. So insert your hook between those 2 stitches and work a double crochet. And now we're going to be working in the chain 1 space of the V-stitch from 2 rows below. So the V-stitches, the chain 1 space, we're working in the gray, 2 rows below. This is the V-stitch, so the chain 1 space is going to be between these 2 double crochets. Pull that one apart. We're going to be working over the chain 1 of this V-stitch and insert our hook under that chain 1. V-stitch. And I'm going to be repeating that all the way down this row. So just pull that V-stitch apart and insert your hook under that chain 1 and continue repeating that on down this row. So when we get to the end of the row, I've worked a V-stitch in that last chain 1 space. Now I'm going to work a double crochet between that last half double crochet and the double crochet from 2 rows below, inserting my hook between those 2 stitches. When you're working at the very end like this, it's going to be helpful if you kind of hang on to the end of your work there as you're working that double crochet so that you don't lose the end of that row, because I'm going to be working a half double crochet in that last stitch. Again, not completing the stitch, pulling in my previous color, dropping the one I was working on. Turn for row 7, chain 1, half double crochet in the same stitch, and now I'm going to work a V-stitch in the space between the next double crochet and the V-stitch from 2 rows below. So 2 rows below will be 1, 2, so that's the pink one. We want to take a look, where's our first V-stitch? It's right here. So I'm going to be working a V-stitch between that V-stitch, that first V-stitch, and that double crochet. So inserting your hook in that space between, work a V-stitch. you're going to be working a V-stitch between all the V-stitches from 2 rows below. So come down under that pink into that space and work a V-stitch. And continue repeating that on down your row. So when we get to the end of that row, I'm going to be working a V-stitch between that last V-stitch and the double crochet stitch. So inserting your hook between, work a V-stitch, and then half double crochet in the last stitch. Not completing that last half double crochet, pulling in my dropped color, turning my work for row 8, chaining 1, half double crochet in that first stitch, V-stitch in the space between the next double crochet and the next V-stitch from 2 rows below. So 2 rows below, there's 1, 2, so that's the white row. So where's our double crochet stitch? Right here. Where's the first V-stitch in white? Right here. So I'm going to be working in this space here. So I'm going to want to pull apart that V-stitch from the previous row and work under the white, work a V-stitch in that space. And repeat that between the next 2 V-stitches, the white, working between them, V-stitch. And continue repeating that, working a V-stitch between the V-stitches. So when you get to the end of that row, you're going to work a V-stitch between the last V-stitch here and that double crochet at the end. So in the middle of that V-stitch, in that space, work a V-stitch, and then a half double crochet in the last stitch. And then we drop that color and pull in our next color for row 9. Look how pretty this stitch is as you start to work through the pattern. These V-stitches really almost look enmeshed with each other. The color work is fantastic. It really gives a unique texture and appearance, especially as we're working with these different colors. You would continue repeating rows 3 through 8 to the size desired in your pattern, continuing to pull in your colors as you're dropping them every row. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial today. Thanks so much for being with me. As always, remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you never miss a new video. Thanks everyone. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.